everybody for coming out. My name is Kirk Allmond. I'm the owner and administrator of the Zombie Preparedness Initiative. We launched in 2006. Our goal is to educate the public on the upcoming inevitable zombie apocalypse. We have on our site, zombiepreparedness.org, we have articles on everything from a new machete style, one of our members reviewed for us. We have an article on establishing and maintaining a post-apocalyptic community. We have an article on first aid kits, and my personal strategy, if all else fails, run.
We're slow zombies.
If they're fast zombies, I'm in trouble. Chances are it's going to be ugly. So we can all hope for slow zombies, but if you look at scientific data, it looks like it's probably going to be fast. There is a parasite discovered a couple of years ago that makes mice attracted to the smell of cats. They don't do anything else except seek out a cat and walk towards them. If you're a mouse, that's pretty bad. There are strains of mad cow disease that affect the brain, make people move and act in mindless fashions. Those kinds of diseases cross with other diseases all the time. You get rabies plus mad cow disease. Sounds like a zombie to me. A lot of people talk about slow zombies. You guys can see over on the side there. The typical slow, dumb zombie. Is anybody scared of a slow, dumb zombie? This is interactive.
Maybe not.
Yeah,
In
one.
close count, like if I'm in a bathroom and the zombie's in there and I can't get out, then yeah.
That'd be pretty scary. Being in a bathroom with one slow zombie. But if we're outside and there's one coming after you, right? That's,
Shoot that dude in the head twice and keep on walking.
you can. If you have zombies that are attracted to noise, shooting them in the head twice is going to be kind of a bad thing. Hundreds of thousands of zombies around, you got one. I'm going to run. I'll get someplace safe and secure, maybe take him out from a distance or something like that. But really, slow zombies, not really all that scary. Fast zombies. They see Zombieland?
Oh yeah.
First rule of Zombieland, cardio. Clearly, I am observing the rules of Zombieland. Unfortunately, until a zombie shows up at my door, I don't know if they're going to be fast zombies or slow zombies. I don't know. I haven't met one. That's my answer whenever anybody asks me, which is one of the first things they always ask. Are they going to be fast or slow? I don't know.
We'll race later.
I hope they're slow. That makes my life much easier. The worst thing about a zombie apocalypse is not really the zombies at all. It's that guy. That guy is the zombie survivor who has become a bad guy, out to make his own life easy, doesn't care much about human life. He's strong. People flock to strength when there's no security. Those guys are the guys you gotta watch out for. So, I'm up here giving a talk about zombie preparedness in my shorts and my zombie t-shirt and flip-flops. Do I look like what you expected when you saw that some guy was going to give a talk on zombie preparedness? Or did you think I look more like this guy? More like him? So, if we're in a zombie apocalypse, and I'm a bad guy, say I'm this guy. Anybody remember that movie? It's The Postman. And that's the bad guy from The Postman. Not many people saw it. It cost like $1 billion and had Kevin Costner. If I'm after the apocalypse, I'm living out my life, cruising through town, looking for some supplies, something to eat, whatever, and I look like that guy. And over on a building over there is a bad guy with a rifle. Do you think he's going to shoot me, or do you think he's going to shoot that guy? He looks like a target. He looks like somebody that has stuff. He looks like somebody that's ready. I'm ready. I just don't look like it. So when the outbreak happens, and there's mass hysteria, and there's people running and screaming everywhere, I'm going to look just like one of them. I'm going to be running.
Should you be wearing flip-flops though?
Probably not.
Okay.
I would probably lose the flip-flops and run barefoot, if this is what I was wearing at the time. But the goal is to blend in. The goal is to look like everybody else when you're prepared, look like everybody else, then make it home to where your stuff is. So, let's talk about the real reason to be ready for the zombie apocalypse. How many of us think the zombie apocalypse is inevitable? 1, 2, 3. I'll be a half. Something. Definitely going to happen. The real reason to prepare for a zombie apocalypse, the CDC knew this when they put out their zombie preparedness guide. The real reason, these are a couple of pictures from Hurricane Katrina. There's how big it was, for those of us that didn't remember. I saw this picture the other day for the first time, and I'd forgotten that it was bigger than Florida. One of the many signs, this shelter is full. And this is a couple of guys out in a parking lot. They spray painted, the water is rising, please. And they ran out of spray paint, please. Those folks, anybody remember the picture of the guy on the roof of his house? And his house, like the water was up to the roof of his house, and he's sitting on his house, and he's waving at helicopters that are just flying by him. If that guy had been ready for the zombie apocalypse, his life would have been much easier. If he'd had a bug-out bag or a bunk-in kit ready, if he'd had some bottled water and some food supplies, he would have been in much better shape. These are some pictures of the earthquake in Haiti. That whole house leaned over the street and ultimately fell down. This is the tsunami in Thailand. You can't really tell, but these are skyscrapers, right about even with the top of the wave. If they'd been ready for the zombie apocalypse, well, probably wouldn't help with the wave, but the people who starved to death afterwards, the people who had no fresh water, the people who had no first aid supplies. I read somewhere that over 20,000 people died of tetanus and injury-related complications from minor injuries, right? Little neosporin would have saved a whole bunch of lives after that tsunami. So like I always say, if you're ready for zombies, you're pretty much ready for anything. Any questions so far? Good. So let's talk about how you prepare for the zombie apocalypse. You see a couple of families in here. How many of you have kids at home or live with your parents? In the event of a zombie apocalypse, how many of you have some place that you've talked about as a place to meet? That's more than I usually get. That's pretty good. A predefined place. Anybody any Walking Dead watchers in here? Some of them. I got a little tired of walking for Sophia. But overall, it's a pretty good show. When they had to leave the farm, luckily they had that spot on the highway that everybody thought to go to. But not one of them had ever talked before about a place that we could go meet up. If we all get separated, a place to meet up. Having a plan, the first step to surviving zombie apocalypse. Building a kit, step 2 in the plan to survive the zombie apocalypse. And then sharing your plan with friends and family. You got to be a little wary of who you share your plan with. Because for every good person that's going to come hang out with you in your survivor camp, wherever that may be, there's going to be one of these guys who's looking to take it from you, right? Anybody ever thought of a plan? Where are you heading in the outbreak?
I'm in the mountains already.
In the mountains already? That's a good spot to be.
Water source.
Water source? That's pretty important, yeah.
My pap's a conspiracy nut and has an underground bunker, food storage, enough guns, and a farm that he can close off and an underground water
We're
source.
going to your place.
I don't have to plan. I don't have to. I've got all of it already set up. At that
Do you-
point, I'm
Do
just.
you have a plan on how to get there?
Everybody meet up at Pap's place.
That's the thing to plan in your case. How am I going to get there?
That's the only thing I have to take care of.
You gotta bring a sedative for him when he gets totally crazy.
Usually when I give these speeches, somebody raises their hand and says, I'm going to Walmart. I mean, if you think about it,
I work there. I don't need to be there.
I mean, if you think about Walmart,
They got everything.
That's where
They got
everyone's
everything.
going though.
They've got the guns.
That's the problem.
They've got
Yeah.
food, water.
What's the chance that you're going to be the
Psycho
first one to get to Walmart?
Yeah.
And then what's the chance that you're going to be able to keep that Walmart as yours?
Well, then let's take over Target.
That much stuff. I think I'd rather go to a Lowe's than a Target. At least then I have some hardware, right? I got a rake. Make a spear out of a rake or a battle axe out of a shovel or something like that.
Nail gun?
You know, that works so good in movies, the nail gun.
They actually have real axes there too.
Yeah, they do. Hatchets and all sorts. But a nail gun in actuality won't shoot. There's a little thing on the end. You got to pull it back on the end of a nail gun to make it shoot a nail. And I would shoot my finger. That's what would happen to me.
What if you like
You
got
have
like
to rig
something and like that held it back? Like, could you tape it back or something?
It's a lot of work. And then you got this air compressor behind you. Is it you're lugging the air compressor in the hose? Hold on, I'm coming.
That and it lacks terminal velocity. All you do is piss off us.
Yeah, the zombies agree that a nail to the head might not kill them.
Nails don't do enough damage and they don't really fly straight either.
I've never
Make
shot one. I'll
zombies
defer
mad.
to your expertise on shooting of nails.
It was on their posters.
Yeah? What else can we use as an improvised weapon from a hardware store?
Hammers.
Hammers,
Crowbars.
crowbar,
Lumber.
lumber, make a bat, any kind of club. A crowbar is a tough one. I don't remember who said crowbar.
Yeah.
Do you ever hit anything with a crowbar? Like really hit it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Throw it.
After about twice, your hands are kind of tingly, numb. Perhaps the first rule of zombie combat: never throw your weapon.
Yeah.
Now what?
Then you have no weapon.
No weapon.
Go with machete.
I'm a fan of the machete, actually. It's they're designed to hack through things. They're designed to take a lot of abuse. They're readily available. They're cheap. They're lightweight.
You don't need to reload them.
You don't have to reload them. However, I will say, if I'm within machete range of a zombie, I should not be fighting that zombie. I should be fighting. Take off the flip-flops and run. Because all it takes is a bite. All it takes is a scratch. Live to fight another day. That's the goal. So we got to create a plan. We're going to build a kit. We got to share our plan with friends and family. The key elements of a good plan, things to think about when you're planning for disaster, zombie apocalypse, or other. The people that are included. So those of you that have a plan, how many people do you think are included in your plan?
5 tops.
5?
Maybe close to 100.
Goes to 100. You gotta go someplace big.
Yeah.
You get up to 100 people, you get into all kinds of logistical problems with toiletries and food and water and
Camps. Separating camps. That's how it will work.
how many are thinking the government camps that will inevitably be set up?
The ones that are already there.
How well did that work out in Katrina? Remember all those stories we heard about Hurricane Katrina and the Superdome and the fights and the rapes and the pillaging and all of that? Stay away from the government camps.
Once you're in the camp, that becomes, how do we get out of the camp?
Well, and the camp is also an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Yes, we like camps.
Yes.
It's called supermarket.
We say camp, they say supermarket. So you got to think about the people that you're going to have with you.
The skills.
The skills, that's super important. I have a very dear friend, maybe my best friend in the world. Her name is Ange, and she's a librarian. Not going to be a lot of help in terms of the zombie apocalypse, right? Maybe afterwards. Once we're all through like the mass hysteria of the first couple of weeks and things are starting to settle down, and there's not so many zombies everywhere, a librarian would be pretty handy. Somebody's going to have to start school or something. But during the apocalypse, a librarian not going to be a great help. I still have to keep her alive. So you have to know the people in your party, the people that you're going to be grouped up with. You have to know them. You have to know what their skills are. Everybody has to bring something to the table. Somebody's got to watch the kids. That's a hugely valuable skill. If you're good with children and you can keep them occupied and you can keep them happy and quiet is good. That's a valuable skill. So it's not just combat skills that you're going to need in order to make it through any sort of disaster, apocalypse, whatever. You got to have a whole range. So knowing the people. Likewise, how many of you get along with your family at all times? Yeah, no hands. Crickets.
My family's figured out we can go about 5 days in a hotel room together before we started each other's throats.
5 days.
5 days.
It's not very long. So in addition to knowing their skills, you also have to know their personalities. You have to know who's going to mesh with whom. I can move this one. You have to know how people are going to interact. Anybody got a group of friends that has two kind of alpha dog type personalities in it? You know what happens then, right? You get that headbutting, and one guy says we should be going this way and doing this thing, and the other guy says we should be going this way and doing this thing. How many of you have ever thought about, fantasized about a zombie apocalypse? No, I have. I always say the worst thing about the zombie apocalypse is pretending it's terrible. Well, that was funny. No? So, when we think about something like that, when we think about the zombie apocalypse especially, we all tend to think of ourselves as the leader of a group of people surviving through the zombie, because that's what the movies are all about, right? But there's only one leader, and one leader is only so good without a whole bunch of people to follow. So when you get a whole group of leaders and a whole group of people that want to be the leader, then there's nobody following, and he can issue all the directives and orders and challenges he wants, but everybody goes off and does their own thing. All the more reason to get up with these people first, talk about the plan, talk about who's going to be doing what, figure all of this stuff out first. That's why we should be doing this now. The next element of a plan, location. We talked a little bit about that. Not going to Walmart, where everybody's going to go. Pap's Farm. Sounds like that's a pretty good spot to go.
Considering it's a good 5 miles out of town and he doesn't have that many neighbors.
That is a good spot to go then. I'm going to a similar place. My family's home place is in Virginia. It's about 115 miles from where I live. That's the biggest challenge for me. We have a farm down there. The farmhouse was built in 1726, before there was running water, before there was electricity, back when they knew how to build things so they would last. It was built to be cool in the summer without air conditioning, so it has windows and all that. It was also chosen, it was the property that I'm going to was the first property patented in Madison County, Virginia, which is right in the middle of Nowheresville, Virginia. So the house was chosen, the location for the house was chosen for its strategic purposes. It's up on a hill. There's a spring out back that I have never seen run dry. It's surrounded by fields, so you can see anything coming at you because the horse fields are all around. Anybody from a city? Do you live in a city? Where do you live?
Philly.
Philly. Philly. That's a much tougher prospect, huh?
We're coming out here.
Yeah.
We're coming to the days out here.
I hope that the traffic's not terrible.
It's true.
Now, there's not that many ways out of Philly. When you live in a city, though, there are definite advantages. Out here, once you've raided the supermarket out of food.
Good job, good luck.
Thanks. Okay, good. The zombie's gone. We can now talk about the real stuff. Once the supermarkets here are out of food, and you've been through all the houses grabbing their food, you're going to hope you grew your own, because that's what it's going to be. Whereas in the city, every apartment is going to have some food. There's a million little stores and restaurants and places to have food. There's bottled water everywhere in a city. One high-rise apartment might yield you a year's worth of food and water. So there are advantages to being in a city. Population density, however. I just did an article for Brains Magazine coming out in July about surviving in New York City during a zombie apocalypse. And New York City has 3.8 square feet for every person in the city. So if you took every person in the city, each one of them would have 3.8 square feet. That's about this big. That's going to be a massive horde of zombies.
Yeah, you couldn't get 28, 28.
Yeah. So in the city, you see somebody get bit, run, get up high, get out of the way, stay down, stay quiet. That's the only way I can think of. Because the first thing that's going to happen in a city, everybody's going to go get in their car and try and leave. And roads are going to get jammed. And zombies come out on the highway and they start biting people in their cars.
I have a random question.
Sure.
What would you think would be the best thing to do if you did get bit? Like before you became a zombie?
That is a great question.
Bitten, like say on an extremity, if you cut it off immediately, do you think you could survive?
I think it depends on the nature. If it's a virus, if like you were like bite hack, maybe. I don't know. If it's a parasite, I don't know. So maybe it's worth a shot. I'm not sure I could do it.
I don't know if I could either. I was just wondering.
I mean, it would take a heck of a somebody to be like, I got bit.
Maybe if you had friends and they could cut it off.
I don't think I could cut somebody's arm. I don't know.
I could save their life, maybe.
Maybe, but what if you cut their arm off and then they still turn into a zombie? And then you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I put you through so much pain.
Oh, but then they're a zombie. They won't care anymore.
It's only the 5 whole backpack on my back, walking around like this. If I have time, I'm gonna write shoot me. Or maybe, gear delivery mule. Because that's really my point. At that point, I've been bitten. I'll get to you in 1 second.
Okay.
I've been bitten. I'm gonna turn into a zombie. The best thing I can do, what do zombies do? They look for people, right? So they can eat them. So I can make myself not a threat. And then I can just carry all my stuff. And then somebody takes me out and they have a whole backpack full of stuff. I figure that's the best thing I can do at that point. What was yours?
This is a follow-up question. If you get bitten, like say on an extremity, if you cut it off immediately, do you think you could survive?
I think it depends on the nature. If it's a virus, if like you were like bite and hack, maybe. I don't know. If it's a parasite, I don't know. So maybe it's worth a shot. I'm not sure I can do it.
I don't know if I could either, I was just wondering.
I mean, it would take a heck of a somebody to be like, I got bit.
Maybe if you had friends and they could cut it off.
I don't think I can cut somebody's arm. I don't know.
I could see their life, maybe.
Maybe, but what if you cut their arm off and then they still turn into a zombie? And then you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I put you through so much pain.
Oh, but then they're a zombie, they won't care anymore.
It's only the 5 or 10 minutes or hour or 2 days until they turn into a zombie. Yeah.
Actually, this is like something that you said that you get bit, you're gonna turn into a zombie. I just read actually a zombie survival book. It wasn't the actual unofficial. It wasn't the actual one by.
Was it the Max Brooks one?
It wasn't the Max Brooks one because I have that one. Actually, I think you still
Yeah, I
have that
have
one.
it.
And I have his World War Z one. There's
Right.
another one that I got. It brought the question of carriers. People who are not affected by it, but they can transmit the disease from, or virus or whatever.
Would that be like an
One
STD?
Or like even kissing could cause you to transfer the zombie virus to someone.
That's terrible.
Like,
That's
you
almost
your-
as
but
bad
you
as
yourself-
zombie mosquitoes.
You yourself are not affected. You're like perfectly healthy. Just
I'd hope I was one of those
you get
people. then.
bitten, just don't kiss anymore.
Zombie
Or
mosquito.
the old
You'd never go
romance
outdoors
of the
again.
zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, I read a book one time. It was a regular fiction book that had zombie animals. I thought, man, if there's zombie animals, we're just done. Can you imagine a little zombie squirrel coming out? It's really horrible. Zombie mosquitoes, you're like, oh.
It's a wonder they haven't made something like that where
With the mosquitoes. I'm gonna write a book now.
There's a lot of infectious disease study that involves mosquitoes. In the 50s, the U.S. government released a whole bunch of yellow fever mosquitoes in the South, just to see how it would spread. I'm glad it's not the 50s anymore.
No, it's probably worse.
Who knows what they're releasing now?
Yeah.
So, hopefully it's
Get your flu shot.
not infected
We're
mosquitoes.
spreading something here in September.
Yeah.
What are the portable and shots?
Well, one of the
Government.
leading ways that people think the zombie apocalypse could happen is, who knows what the government is doing down in those laboratories,
Umbrella cord.
and
Yeah.
something crazy happens and it gets into some other thing that they're doing somewhere else, or some bad guy gets a hold of it and releases it, or whatever. Right? That's a pretty common theme in zombie novels, is that the government did it. It's some research or some umbrella corporation thing or something like that.
Have you read, it's a true book, it's Lab 257?
I don't think that I have.
It's pretty scary. Government testings and stuff like that, the Lyme outbreak, and there was different outbreaks in New York on Palm Island.
Really?
Yeah, pick that up, it's a really good book.
Sounds interesting. I watched Contagion.
Yeah.
Man, that movie scared me.
That was like Captain Trips for Stephen King.
Yeah, yeah.
Just wipe everybody out.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking of this.
Yeah, Contagion was, that was worrisome.
Quarantine was a pretty good one too.
Yeah.
The first one, the second one was like not as good as the first one.
I haven't seen the second one.
That wasn't as good.
So in addition to our location, once we've figured that out, now we have to start talking about resources. What kind of we've talked about food and water with this farm. And food. What else do you think is a resource that would be important to have if we're talking about it without a rule of law world? Yes?
Weapons?
Weapons. I think weapons are an important tool.
A place to grow anything.
A place to grow that you can move with you. That's a great one. Yeah.
Water purifier.
Water
Like-
purification and access to water.
You can, any type of water, like you can just, you take like a bowl and a plate, set them in the sun, the condensation will like give fresh drinking water.
A very big bowl and a very big plate.
That's like for one person.
If you're in the desert, I mean, a little drop of water can do. Water is a huge one. You know that old saying that the human body can go 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, or 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. Yeah. Sorry?
Medical supplies.
Medical supplies are hugely important. Number one place to avoid during the zombie apocalypse, the hospital. Because before it's the apocalypse, when it's just zombies, which people are in the beginning going to say crazy infected people, right? Where are they all going to go? The hospital. Number one place to avoid. Ground zero.
If we're thinking about like sort of after the apocalypse, I think it'd be important to preserve some books.
I think so. We're going to lose the internet, probably. Power grid's going to fail. All those connections between computers, trees fall, we lose power lines and phone lines and connections. The internet's probably going to go. Yeah.
One most people don't think of, soap.
Soap.
Soap is like the one common, simple thing that prevents you from getting infections, from getting sick. And absolutely, in the zombie apocalypse, you want to stay healthy.
Absolutely.
You're not going to go visit your doctor if you suddenly got the flu or something.
Soap is huge. You know, anybody heard of the Black Plague? Medieval times, bring out your dead, bring out your dead. You know what the cure was for that? Soap.
Washing your hands.
That's why zombies. That's why doctors never got it. For hundreds of years after the bubonic plague, people wondered why doctors never got sick. Because they washed their hands all the time.
A lot of them too, they took a lot of precautions. Mask,
Sure.
They thought it was scaring off demons, but
long coat.
Yeah, absolutely. But all of that, along with soap, kept the virus off of your hands. And regular old plain soap, lye soap, killed the virus. So if all those people in the Middle Ages had washed once a week. But you know, back then people thought washing was bad for you.
And the fact that like, your body had the natural oils were good for you. They didn't realize that your body's expelling those oils because they're not good for you.
Imagine how the city smelled.
bad.
I would say fuel.
Fuel,
The ability to make fire.
fire. Fire has so many uses other than burning things.
But it could attract the zombies.
It might.
You gotta stay warm.
True,
How
but
do you
I don't
feel
think
about
we're
fire
having
against
zombies
Is
coming
it
out.
helpful, or does it
Well-
you just get flaming zombies?
I think the only thing worse than a zombie is a flaming zombie.
Yeah.
A walking match.
If they don't feel pain.
So I think fire's bad. Fire
You
bad.
don't know things.
Fire.
Just the ability of fire in order like purification of water, being able to make things clean, keeping yourself warm. It's very useful.
Purifying your food. Being able to cook food kills all kinds of bacteria that grows in your food. The longer we go, the longer we're eating canned food or leftover food or whatever we can find food, the more important it becomes to heat that food to 160 degrees for a period of time to kill whatever could be growing in it. So
you have a magnifying glass in your pack.
I don't. You know what I have?
But a magnifying glass would be eternal.
Yeah,
That'd run out of fuel. Magnifying glass.
I have 10 of them.
Sun.
so I'm a smoker, and I always have one in my pocket and two in my truck and one in my bag.
That's unless the government decides to use nukes and they have all kinds of stuff in the atmosphere and nuclear winter, plus zombies.
Wow, I really hope that doesn't happen because then I'm done. Without the sun, not gonna grow food or anything. Magnifying glass is a great way to start a fire, though. And you're right; it doesn't ever run out of fuel, and it doesn't ever, get used up. They break. You can. How many? Anybody watch those survivory kind of shows? They had the one with the two guys, the one guy that never wore shoes,
Tool survivor.
right? That was a great one, and they always used them. They never used the same way twice to start a fire. And there's a million. A battery works, or a fire bow. Or,
I actually saw that on Zombie Survival internet show I watch sometimes as I get bored. They showed you like get a regular like a D battery and cotton wool, and it will start a fire.
Steel wool.
Yeah.
Battery and steel wool. It's a great way. Fuel, I think, was the original start. And if your goal is to stay mobile, fuel is a key to that. Right? Anybody know how long gasoline lasts before it won't burn in your car anymore? A year if it's really fresh at the gas station. 9 months. I had some, I bought at the end of last summer, and at the beginning of this summer, it wouldn't start my lawnmower. So that was 6 months. I didn't do that, and that's why it didn't work. But that was just, I went to Sheetz down the road, and I filled up a can at the end of the season, and I tried it early this spring, because, grass grew early this spring. 6 months, wouldn't start my lawnmower. So gas is going to be precious for a little while. But ultimately, I don't know, it depends how many people survive and what the numbers are, but I think gas is a short term. Diesel, on the other hand, lasts way longer.
And you don't need actual diesel, you need vegetable oil with diesel, like running equipment.
You could use vegetable oil for a little while, but it's going to come off the engine without modifications. There are lots of diesels that are made to run on biofuels that you can just take the oil right out of a fryer, strain the french fries out, and run it in your car. But fuel oil, how many of you have fuel oil in your house for your furnace? It's diesel fuel without the smell and the color. Fuel oil and diesel, number 4, fuel oil and diesel are the same thing. A diesel vehicle you're going to be able to run for several years. But eventually all the diesel's going to gel up too, and then we're going to be out.
Don't forget kerosene.
Yeah, you can use kerosene as well. Really terrible mileage though.
Oh, yeah.
Did you have a question?
Mine was a different resource. You guys were still talking about fuel. So
I'll get to you in just a second. The little guy behind you, Hannah.
For weapons, I would choose a crossbow.
A crossbow, like Daryl's. That's a great weapon, a crossbow. If you're willing to go pull your arrows out. And you got zombie covered arrows.
It's only a good weapon if you know how to use it.
Easy. It's as easy to use as a rifle.
Yeah, I've seen some really bad shots though.
That's true. That's what scares me the most about the zombie apocalypse is not really the zombie. I'll get to you in 1 second, okay? Not really the zombie. I didn't want you to have to sit there with your hand up for the next minute. Not the zombies. It's the bad shots. I'm running from a zombie and they're trying to help me and I catch one in the arm. That's pretty scary, but yeah.
Have you guys seen a zombie book? I forget what it's called, but like when it role was to get out of the car and ride a bike.
That's the Zombie Survival Guide from Max Brooks. I think bikes are. Max Brooks and I have very differing ideas on surviving the apocalypse. I think a bike is a terrible idea. I think it leaves you very open and tired. I guess if I was an Olympic bicycler, I might go for a bike. But having recently rode 5 miles one day and my legs were sore for 4 days afterwards, I'm not sure a bike's the right thing. But you're a little guy. Bike would probably be pretty good for you. You're tough and strong and young. And don't get sore.
It's a good idea, and on one point of view, then you're completely open, and I mean, if it's fast zombies we're talking about.
Bike's no good against fast zombies. Slow zombies great.
Not much is good against fast zombies, really. The nice thing about a bike, the good thing about a bike is you can go almost anywhere, and if you can't get there, then you can pick it up and put it on your back and walk up the hill or over the log or over the cars or whatever's in your way. And a bike is less work than walking. So there are benefits to a bike. I'm not sure I would want to be out there open with nothing between me and them. So I'm kind of if I had my perfect post-apocalypse vehicle, it would be an old diesel Volkswagen Rabbit. It got 60 miles per gallon of diesel fuel. It would be easy to find. If it's a slow incubation period, If you get bit and then 3 days later you turn into a zombie, and the apocalypse happens over time, gas is going to go fast. Not nearly as many diesel vehicles on the road. Diesel is a good choice. We should all be driving diesel cars. Another key element of your plan, security. We talked a little bit about weapons. We talked about keeping your stuff yours from those who would take it from you. And keeping your place secure against zombies. I can't tell you how many zombie movies I've seen that people were hiding in a building and the zombies just eventually smashed the door open. Or in The Walking Dead last season when enough of them pushed on the fence and it broke a fence board. So, most houses today have tons of glass. In the event of an apocalypse, we're going to have to cover that glass with something. Most doors today are made of a little strip of wood that holds the door closed. It is astoundingly easy to kick a door in. I just did it, actually. I'm remodeling my basement, and I kicked the door to the garage open just to see what it took, and it was surprisingly easy. So we're going to have to come up with some way, block off the windows, add strength to the doors, bar the doors, whatever. So security is not just guns. Security is also fortifications. And the last one, transportation, I think we've covered that one pretty well. Again, I'm a fan of small and diesel. One of the things I did not touch on with resources, the importance of gathering them before the apocalypse. We've all seen in movies where first stop outside of Walmart is the gun store. And you find the abandoned gun store with all kinds of beautiful, awesome, exciting guns in it. I don't think that's going to happen. I think if you're the first person to the gun store, you know who you're going to find in there? The owner. You know what he's going to do when you try and steal a gun from him? Use one. And if you're the guy who kills the owner, you're going to take all the guns, and you're going to, when the good guy gets there, who's hopefully you, not the guy killing the owner of his own store, when you get there, there's not going to be anything. Or maybe some big like elephant gun cartridges or something for completely impractical. I don't believe you can count on looting or gathering anything afterwards. I think the key is to have what you need beforehand so that you're planned, you're practiced, you're prepared, and you're ready. There's a couple of places in this world that are lawless, which is really what we're talking about here, right? Uganda. What's the name of that dude from Uganda? Anybody know? Coney? We all watched that video. You know why he's in charge? Because he's strong and ruthless. In Somalia, we know who's in charge in Somalia? Warlords, because they're strong and they're ruthless. Some personality types are drawn to that. When there's chaos everywhere, this guy, he's a bad guy. He's terrible. He trivializes human life and makes bad decisions, but he's strong and he keeps me alive, and so I'm willing to overlook the lack of human rights or any other redeeming qualities about this guy. In places where there is no rule of law, where there is no justice, the strong take charge. And the little guys either follow the strong or they run. I think a year after the apocalypse, we're going to be looking at marauder groups who travel around. I believe it's going to be kind of Mad Max style. You're going to have groups of bad guys who travel around and steal what they need or take what they need, kill whoever gets in their way. I think the value of human life to those people is going to be very low. So no matter how prepared you are, no matter how tough you are, no matter how many guns you have or how much ammunition you have, there's always somebody bigger and stronger. Securing your location, being in a safe, well-fortified house somewhere, multiplies your force. If you're dug into a position, it takes 10 times the amount of soldiers to clear a dug-in position than it takes the dug-in position to defend against that army. And we learned that in Vietnam. When they were dug into a hill and we were trying to take the hill, we were losing 10 to their 1. And that holds true in every battle, no matter what the weapons technology of the day is. A fortified position is much easier to defend. So, security, not just guns. There's the answer to your question. Bicycles and motorcycles, no protection, but they do offer a lot of agility. So, of those of you in the room, who's planning on staying where you are in your house? One guy, two, couple there, couple over there.
I go like that.
Go to their house.
That's our zombie plan.
Good.
We got a lot of fortifying to do though, too much glass.
So for the rest of us that are leaving, the importance of a bug out bag is vital. A bug out bag, this is a random picture I pulled off the internet. This one has some meals ready to eat, some rope, looks like I think that's a canteen down in the bottom. There's a gun up in the corner, some radios, a knife, some fire starters. A bug out bag is designed to get you from where you are to where you're going to go. The importance of a bug out bag is that it is prepped and ready. Because when the zombie apocalypse hits, who's going to have time to gather all of this stuff? What if it's not a zombie apocalypse? What if it's a flood? This is right by Johnstown, right? We know about floods here. And that happened really fast. And if you had had something ready in a closet where you knew where it was and it was packed and ready and you could grab it and run, that's what a bug out bag is for. It's not supposed to be the ultimate survival bag. It's not your whole survivor camp in a bag, because then you can't run. The first bug out bag, so I started doing all this in 2006. And I built my bug out bag into one of those frame, like hiker backpacks, right? The belt and the chest clip and the bars above my head to hang things on, and the stuff that hung down, and a waist attachment with more pouches. And the whole thing was 95 pounds. And I put it on for the first time, and I had to like heave it onto a table, and then get down and strap it on. And I went camping with it for a weekend. We went 2 miles into the woods, and at the end of 2 miles, I literally fell over. And look, I'm a fat guy, right? But I'm in pretty good shape. I'm pretty strong, and I'm reasonably young, and I can run a couple of miles if I have to. I don't really like it. But 2 miles with 95 pounds, I don't know how our soldiers do it. That's what their packs weigh. And they go 20 miles. Those guys are amazing, and I cannot give enough credit to how in shape those guys are. This taught me that. So my current bug out bag is like a day pack, like a school book bag. It's got food, it's got fire starting, it's got emergency shelter. It doesn't have a whole tent, but it has a couple of space blankets and some rope, and I can make something to keep the dew off of me if I have to be outside. I really hope I don't have to be outside. It has some water purification and some way to start fire. Those are the keys to a bug out bag. Remember that it's not, I'm going into the wilderness and I'm going to live in the woods for the next 2 years. That's not what it's for. A bunk-in kit, on the other hand, is for staying. So if you're staying in your house, this is what you want to build. This particular one, again, it's just a picture I pulled off. I googled bunk-in kit, and this came up. Yeah, sorry. If you're staying, weight isn't really an issue. Storage might be an issue, but weight really isn't. I have some Metro shelves up in my garage and a couple of cases of water. I keep a pantry down in the basement with some canned foods and some long-term storage food. In my house, that means I have tools. Tools are something you might have to carry with you if you were running, at least a multi-tool or something. I have food, I have water, I have music. When you're hiding out in your house and you're peeking through the windows, the little hole in the window, and there are hordes of zombies walking by, and you have to be quiet, it's really boring. You ever just sit and be quiet in a room by yourself?
Yes.
I zone out a lot.
This is fun for like 10 minutes.
10 minutes sometimes can be 5 hours.
Well, good for you. I can't do it.
I know, but it was awesome.
I am a doer. Right? I'm one of those guys that gotta be doing something all the time. I can't sit still. If I was sitting still for 10 minutes, I'm ready to get up and do something. After 2 days, I'm gonna be going crazy. If I'm just hiding in a house trying to be quiet, I'm gonna go crazy. An iPod or an iPad
About board games.
with some music,
People with you. Nope,
some
no
headphones.
tasks.
Headphones I'm a little sketchy on, right? Maybe just one headphone so you can hear zombies coming with the other ear. But something to take your mind off what's happening, absolutely vital. Yeah.
That is until electricity runs out and you can't charge your
Batteries.
Now, see, I'm a really big geek, and I have a solar charger for my phone. So it takes about 3 hours. It'll charge my phone from the sun, and it then lasts most of the day.
Well, you can put the charger by them. Upper windows, you know.
Second story windows will be open, the roof, whatever. I don't know. I mean, if I was surrounded by a sea of undead, I'm not sure I'd be risking going in the windows to charge my iPod or my phone.
It's not only undead, it's
Right, but also the marauders, you know? They see you in an upper window and they have a 22 with a scope and they're half a mile away.
or they can smell your eggs
That's when
frying.
you climb up to the attic, you cut a hole directly in the middle of the roof.
So I'll tell you what a geek I am for this stuff. I have an axe mounted to the rafters in my roof.
Good idea.
Because if I have to, I can go up in the attic. And I can pull the stairs up behind me and nothing can get to me. And now I'm in my attic. Now that's my absolute worst case scenario. They get into my house, they get through my defenses, I run out of ammunition or whatever. The zombies are in my house, I'm up in my attic. Right? I told you I was bored after 10 minutes with my whole house. Now I'm in the attic. So one day I went up in the attic and I brought 15 feet of garden hose and a little pump and an axe. And I mounted the axe in the rafters so I can chop through the roof and get out onto my roof. And directly under in my bedroom, I have a 150-gallon fish tank. And I figure if I'm stuck in my attic, I can siphon water up into the attic out of the fish tank and it's going to taste terrible. But I'll be alive. And I told you in the beginning of all this, stay alive under any circumstances necessary. If I got to drink fish tank water to live for another day, I'm going to drink fish tank water to live for another day. So yeah, axe mounted to the rafters so I can chop through it and outside. One of the things you almost never see, and we're almost out of time, one of the things you almost never see in zombie movies is what happens a year from now. Anybody know how long Twinkies last?
Not forever.
Like 3 weeks. I always thought, before I started all this, I always thought Twinkies last forever, right? Because they're Twinkies and they're made out of chemicals and plastic. Delicious chemicals and plastic, I'll tell you. But no, they only last about 2 weeks. An average can of food, 9 months. some freeze-dried food will make it a year, year and a half before the expiration date. You can often eat it well after that. But a year from now, there's not going to be much of that left. So, in the bottom pouch of my bug out bag, I have 25 packages of seeds. I have tomato plants and zucchini plants and lettuce and cucumbers and all of those garden vegetables that grow in the climate that I live in. And when I get to a place, if I make it through, and I get to a place where I'm safe and secure, and we can start pushing back and walling places off and making safe places, and I'm starting to set up a life, I have some seeds that we can plant, grow some food, because the canned food is not going to last forever. Yeah.
Well, who says that the zombies will last? There could always be hopeful that the government doesn't really fall apart and they find their cure, or what
That's
is
a
like.
movie thing.
You know what?
Or what
I am not relying on the government to do anything
What
for
there's
me.
a 28 days later type of scenario, and they just die off, like they starve.
Woohoo! I'm happy. Right? If it's Max Brooks' world and the zombies all freeze in the winter,
Yay!
fantastic. Give me a bat.
Well, go back and snap them on the head.
I mean, then we're just talking about, that's just fun, right? A little zombie sick. That's a good time. I don't care who you are. That's a good time. Yeah.
You cut off the zombie's head. Since you didn't destroy the brain, will the zombie still be alive?
I have never met a zombie.
I don't know.
This is theoretical at this
If the brain stem is intact, then theoretically it could survive.
I think if we're talking about Romero kind of zombies, then yeah, the brain, the head sits there and snaps. In my books, that happens pretty often. So I write a series of books called What Zombies Fear. In my books, parasites are what cause the zombies. If you get bitten by a zombie that hasn't been a zombie very long, they haven't had time to reproduce many parasites, you end up as one of these kind of zombies, right? If the zombie's been a zombie for a while and the parasites have started reproducing and he's got a lot and he delivers a lot, then you end up smarter. You got a lot of parasites, the parasites take over your brain. This is my books. The more parasites you have, the more of your brain they take over, the more of those functions they keep. And then, we only use 10% of our brains. We have no idea what those other 90% of your brain does. I think that's the 90% that gives you telepathy and all kinds of cool powers that you hear about on the fringe.
Psionic zombies?
Yeah.
So, we bad.
Bring your brain to me.
So in my books, there's
I have not considered that.
That's not good.
You're blowing my mind. Psionic zombies?
That's awesome, but not good.
So you have your shamblers, brains, right? Because they don't have very many parasites. Then you got zombies with a lot of parasites that are most just like you and I could be one of them. And then you have super zombies that can fly and teleport, and they're strong.
These are in your books?
Yeah.
Oh,
And what's zombies fear?
yeah.
And
You got a
then-
table up there?
Yeah, they're on the table.
Burning hot.
And then, we gotta wrap up here, but, and then, how do you beat super zombies? You gotta have super people. So some people are immune to the parasite that causes zombies. In those people, the parasites come, they take over their brain, but then the parasites die. The corpses of the parasites, however, maintain those connections that they made, and you get people with superpowers. Superheroes versus super zombies. That's my book's What Zombies Fear. So my name is Kirk Allmond. I'm with the Zombie Preparedness Initiative. We've been around since 2006. We have 15,000 members getting ready for the zombie apocalypse. I hope you'll all check out the website. I hope you'll all check out my books and enjoy them. Thank you very much for your time.
Oh.